Now I'm going to show you how I make my dessert cakes. And these cakes do not get icing. They get a pudding sauce, and I'll show you how to make that also. I've already done some of the prep work for these cakes, so I'm making two. One is for my cinnamon apple theme, and the other one is a raspberry one, which gets a lemon sauce. So I've already measured out the flours. I used 76 grams of whole wheat flour. I used 23 grams of soy flour. I used a generous tablespoon of baking powder. I used a third of a cup of wheat flakes that you get in the same type of bins you get the oat bran. So whole wheat flour, soy flour, and wheat flakes. Now I have used quinoa flour and I've used millet flour. Today I use soy. And the baking powder, and that's it. Then I took a fork and just blended them all together. Sometimes you'll actually see pieces of, I don't know, wheat or grain that gets in here. So I mix the flours up well. And I'm going to use a whisk. And I have my oven heating to 350. And each cake goes in the large round cake pan. So set aside the flours, and now for the liquid part of the cake. Each one gets a quarter cup of skim milk, a quarter cup of no sugar added applesauce, and an eighth of a cup of egg. So now I have to do the whole thing again for the other one. Quarter cup of skim milk, lactate-free, seems to work well. Eighth of a cup of, this is better than eggs because I'm sure it was on sale that day. And a quarter cup of the applesauce. And then we put in some Splenda, or what I use is called Alternates Bargain Brand Splenda, and I think I better look at my recipe, I don't remember. A third of a cup of Splenda. This is a half a cup here, so it'd be less than that. I could have really measured. There's your Splenda. And for one, you put in cinnamon, lots of cinnamon. Be generous. And then when you run out, you run out. And about a capful of Da Vinci Gourmet sugar-free vanilla syrup. When you serve these, you're going to put on some of the Walden Farms apple butter jelly type topping. And the oven's ready. And then for the other one, the Da Vinci raspberry syrup, and I use this a little more generously. So those are your liquids plus about a cup of water, which I didn't already get out. And you'll get used to the consistency and know how much liquid you need. I've talked to you about that consistency thing before. So I'm mixing up the applesauce and cinnamon and egg and milk and Splenda. And I'm whisking in the flour mixture alternately with water. I'm going to do this with both of them and then bake them at the same time for about 30 minutes. And I think I told you the oven is heating to 350. And when these are out of the oven and on a cooling rack, when you take them out, put them on a cooling rack, and then you transfer them to a plate. I have this white plate that's just the right size for these. And I cut each cake into 4 pieces. So I cut it in half and I cut it in half. And 1/4 of the cake is the serving size. And I put that cake on a nice glass plate. And then I usually actually divide it into 4. And they cool really well. And then I put each piece in a Ziploc bag or plastic baggie and I freeze them. And then during the week, you know, I'm going to put just a little bit more. So it's going to be like a cup and a quarter, or a cup and an eighth of liquid. And I'm just going to switch right on over to this one because I'm just making this for me. So I stick each individually wrapped cake in the freezer. And during the week, after I have one of those dinners that you've seen me make, I will take out a piece of this cake and defrost it in the microwave on a glass plate. And once it's defrosted, then I will pour this pudding sauce on it and warm it up. And I'm going to show you that momentarily. And so I eat the cake with a pudding sauce. Whoops. Getting a little rambunctious here. So I'm not over stirring it. I'm not using beaters because it's kind of like a muffin mix, you know. When I took home economics, the teachers always said, don't over stir it. Go ahead and add a little bit more to that one since I swiped some for the other one. Okay, so I think that these are well stirred. And I'm going to pour them in the pan and use my spatula to get every last drop. I'm going to use just this butter flavored non-fat spray, no flour, no special baking spray. Relatively generously at the side. I haven't had trouble lately. As long as you cook them long enough, they won't stick. And if you don't cook them long enough, then they'll probably stick. Okay, so the cinnamon flavored one. I'm moving out of range here, but I don't know that you really need me to show you how to pour a cake into a pan. I love this spatula because I get every last drop out of here. Doesn't fill it very full, so it's not a very thick cake. You could make more batter, of course. You just adjust it. So you have the building blocks, I guess, of the cake, and you can always add more flour, and if you add more flour, then you add more liquid. Okay. So, I'm going to place these in the center of my oven for 30 minutes, and I'm going to show you how to make one of the sauces. Timer, 30 minutes.